Well, good afternoon and welcome everybody to Office Hours here on Hosting.com's Agency Success. My name is Nathan Ingram and I am the agency trainer here at Hosting.com. So glad you've joined us for Office Hours. Every Thursday, we swing open the doors of the virtual office and let you ask just whatever you'd like to. And the pre-show is always fun. We were just talking about AI things and MCPs and what those things are, and just completely lost track of time. So here we go, starting just a touch late today. And as always, your questions are up for grabs if you will use the link that is in the chat. We currently have 4 or 5 questions in the list, 5 questions currently. So get your question in. And as usual, if you're watching this on the replay out on YouTube, you can ask your question at any time. Just go to wpnathan.com, click the Ask a Question button up in the top. WP Nathan is just a little demo site. It's a template, Cadence template site. But the Ask a Question button is real, and that's where you drop in your questions in a form, and we get to those roughly in the order they're received. So even if you can't join us live, you can ask your question and just watch the replay. All right, so we will begin as we usually do with this week's weekly brief. And if you would like to download this deck so that you have all of the links to check out the stories, the link is in the chat. Okay, so let's talk about what's been going on here in the last week. So as you're probably aware, WordPress 7.0 shipped. It is finally out after a long delay. It shipped on May the 20th, so just over a week ago today. I've updated a couple of sites, no issues that we've seen, and I haven't really seen any broad issues being talked about by anyone. Other than the security folks are chiming in, this was kind of predictable, with the new AI infrastructure layer that has been added as part of WordPress 7.0. And so, 7.0 has landed. There's a very discrete admin refresh of the admin pages and a few other things. So the biggest single thing I think in WordPress 7 really has to do with those AI connectors. And so you see those under settings and connectors, and we'll just take a quick look there if you've not played around with these yet. Settings and connectors, and this is where you can connect your favorite AI tool. Now, the problem here is it is site-wide, it's not per user, and for at least the Claude connector, I think all of them are this way, but you'd have to investigate. But at least the Anthropic connector, you can't use your Claude subscription. It is an API key, which means it's metered, so you're paying in addition to whatever monthly subscription you might have. And the challenge here is, okay, those API keys are stored out there in your WordPress database. So guess what? That's a new attack surface. In that if your site gets compromised, then now they also have your API key, right? So Oliver Sild, the founder of PatchStack, has been talking about this. It makes WordPress a richer target for hackers who want to go in and try to get a whole bunch of free API usage for your AI tools. So it's out there. There's nothing else there's nothing that makes WordPress 7 less secure necessarily than the rest, other than here's another thing that can be compromised should your WordPress site be compromised. And it's really, honestly, it's another thing to add to the bucket of questions on how and whether you should even use the AI connectors in WordPress. So it's just something to think about. At this point, by the way, just me personally, this is my take, only me. We're probably going to write a snippet that we deploy across all of our sites that just hides this. I don't think any of our clients are going to use it, and it's just one more thing that could cause problems. And anyway, so, and when I say we're going to write a snippet, of course, I mean me and Claude. We'll figure it out. And Terry, you are correct. The bright blue, it's WordPress blue. It's branded WordPress blue, but it is garish. That's the adjective I'm going with. All right, so WordPress 7.1 is being planned with a potential release date of August the 19th. That is to coincide with the hot new WordCamp coming up, WordCamp US in Phoenix, Arizona in the middle of August. Yep. So this is going to, they're still working on the release squad. Those nominations are due by June the 5th. So it's in the earliest of early planning. They are looking at actually deploying real-time collaboration in WordPress 7.1. They'll be upgrading the kind of the React spine, the React JavaScript spine that's inside WordPress to 19, and a bunch of other things that carried over. So we'll have more on that, obviously, as we actually start thinking about WordPress 7.1 when more information becomes available. All right, so here's this is a good one. I don't know if you saw this or not, but yes, WordPress turned 23 this week. It was WordPress birthday. Was it yesterday or Tuesday? I think it was yesterday. Oh, there's my calendar. Let's see. It was yesterday. WordPress calendar was yesterday, WordPress birthday, and we had a celebratory post on WordPress.org that Matt Mullenweg wrote, and it was very personal. He framed WordPress birthday in terms of the ongoing legal issue between Silver Lake, WP Engine, and WordPress. And this was the final paragraph. I've cut out just a few things to make it fit, but it's all the same sentiment, and you can go read it. Matt said, if you wanted me to suffer for my sins, I have, and probably deeper than you'll ever know. You have so much money and power, you don't need to control and take over WordPress too. If you win, you destroy it, and then what? Please have mercy and stop trying to ruin people's lives. Let's move on. So, happy birthday, WordPress. And now for the next slide. Really good report here from Guarding WP, which, full disclosure, I'd never heard of until I saw this story. It's a great report, though, if for no other reason than it's excellent fodder for your own blog posts about WordPress security and why people need security. So some really good stats here. These are the top line stats, but there's a lot more in the report. This is one that I would just suggest that I'm going to copy this link address and drop it in the chat. Check this out, save it. It could be great for conversations with clients about why WordPress security is important. So 52.8% of WordPress sites are running at least one plugin with a known vulnerability. How about that? 55.9% are leaking their WordPress version through that generator meta tag that's up there, which is not a great idea. Over 93% missing one or more modern security headers. Cloudflare can take care of that for you. 35.8%, more than a third of WordPress sites have XML RPC enabled, which is a huge attack surface for WordPress that nobody really uses anymore. And then almost 16% of version disclosing sites are on an outdated, unsupported WordPress branch pre 6.5. So what that means is every time WordPress rolls out a new release, they're backporting it to 6.5 at this point. They may inch that up, but all of the security releases are backported to 6.5 and higher now. And so almost 16% of WordPress sites that are showing their version in the header with that version tag are not getting any security updates at all. And so they are just by default vulnerable. So here's it's like they've published in their head tag, I'm using a vulnerable version of WordPress. Please attack me is basically what they're saying here. So not great. And lots of other good statistics on security here in this article. I'd recommend grabbing that, saving it, and maybe writing something about it to your clients. All right, this is good news. WordPress has dropped the beta label for PHP 8.5. 8.5 is now fully officially supported by WordPress. John Blackburn announced that earlier this week. Now, they'd kept the beta version for a while, beta label or beta support for these 8.x versions for a while. But after, especially since WordPress 7, it's been a lot easier to make sure that it works with all the latest flavors of PHP. So take a look at that. Good stuff. And it's a good thing now that the PHP team they're showing that its core WordPress at least does support the latest versions of PHP. So pretty good. Okay, moving right along. This is not so great news. The WordPress AI team, that's really been a lot of the headline makers in the conversation about WordPress, have lost both of their co-reps. So both James LePage and Felix Arndt have both stepped down as co-reps of the WordPress AI team. They've been in that spot for a year, and they've done incredibly good work to bring WordPress from zero core AI presence to its current state. Particularly with things like the Abilities API. Even if you don't like the connectors feature in WordPress 7, the work that these folks have done has been the groundwork was the Abilities API that allow any tool like Novamira or your other favorite WordPress MCP tool to connect to WordPress and start to do some things. And so this was foundational work, and I think we all will look back and owe these folks a debt of gratitude. Now, good news. Jason Adams, who's currently at Automatic, Jason's a great guy, brilliant developer, was on the Stellar team for a while. Jason has now moved into one of these AI team rep roles. That's a good thing. And so we'll see how that progresses. Okay, this is pretty cool. You may know the name Jake Goldman, or maybe you've seen it. He was one of the founders of 10up, which in the last year or two merged with another enterprise WordPress agency called Fueled. Jake Goldman has a little private project here that is an official WordPress browser extension. Now, this is like a Chrome extension. It lives over on GitHub, but I want to show you what this is about because you may want to download this and take a look. Now, just by the way, it is still, it hasn't been officially submitted. And so, if it wasn't a trusted developer, I would have some concerns, but we know the provenance of this code. Just take a look at what this can do. So here's what it looks like in the browser. Let me just, oh, good. It does get big. Here we go. So it's a nice clean layout, but it lets you quickly and easily get to a lot of the things you might want to here in WordPress. But even more than that, let's see. Yeah, it will expose some developer tools. Pretty neat. Toggling on things like Query Monitor. It will also, when you're in the admin area, give you, well, that's just kind of where we were. Where are all of the screenshots I'm looking for here? Logged in. There we go. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm not seeing all the things. So it's interesting, and I would suggest that you give it a look. Let me go back to the original page. Yeah, this is the most interesting one. So like when you're actually doing as a developer, you can toggle these things on under this drop down where you can highlight certain blocks, have a mobile preview really easily in your browser, turn off caching for that page or bypass the page cache for the work you're currently doing. It's pretty neat. It'll be free and it's out there. Just read a little bit about it and you can download the actual code here from GitHub, and it does explain to you how to install this. So if you've never installed a browser extension like from a file, it's a little different. So you just kind of have to you have to turn on developer mode in your Chrome extensions and so forth. But it's all explained right here how to install it. It's worth taking a look. It's something I might start to use. Uh, Gene is asking, is it owned by WordPress? No. This is a third-party developer. Yeah, so it does. Yeah. All right. Let us move along. All right. So because Google loves to name things and change the names of things that they previously changed the names of, Looker Studio is now becoming Data Studio again. And I applaud this because Looker is a silly name. So it used to be called Google Data Studio a long time ago. And then Google bought a company called Looker that had a better Data Studio tool. And so then it became Looker Studio. And now they've, I think, come to their senses and realized Data Studio was a better name all along. So no news here other than finally it's called what it should have been called all along. There you have it. They say everything's going to migrate. I mean, there's no real changes here. Like you don't have to, it's just going to update the name. There should be no underlying functional changes. Should be, because it is Google. All right. For those of you who are using MCPs and you've seen the absolute beauty of working with something like Novamira, you'll be excited to know that the Novamira team is hard at work. In the last week, they've dropped 3 versions. They went from 1.3 to 1.5. So there are some notable things here. And if you've not yet played with Novamira, I'd recommend that you do so. Just go to novamira.ai. It'll walk you through. You can learn all the things there. And even your favorite AI tool can help you install this and get it working. Just don't ever paste application passwords in the chat of your AI tool. I hope that goes without saying. But what they've done is they've added skills so you can create a skill for Novamira using your Claude or your Chat GPT and let Novamira use it. And that's pretty cool. It also added one-time admin access links for giving browser automation without exposing passwords. 1.4, now it knows how to edit with Gutenberg blocks, which is pretty cool. And so it will actually create a page full of blocks for you that are core blocks from some sort of static visual design. 1.5 is now adding third-party block support. So I haven't played with this one yet, but it seems from the changelog and what I read, looks like it'll pick things up like generate blocks or cadence blocks and build things. So I don't know. It's getting more and more powerful, and it's pretty neat. It's worth experimenting with. And finally, if you want to take a look at a different MCP, the good folks over at Gravity Kit, these are really smart, longtime WordPress folks. Gravity Kit has launched their own block MCP, which solves a problem that many other WordPress MCPs had in the past of generating a bunch of code and then it just lands as a single classic blob block in your block editor, and it's problematic. And so they've solved that problem here, and this will actually work with blocks as well. So there's a couple of really good options that, let's just say you have some time to experiment. Give it a try. Novamira and the new Gravity Kit block MCP. Novamira is going to be significantly more feature rich. Gravity Kit's going to be focused to blocks, but it might be a little easier to set up. You just have to try it and see, and experiment a bit. I think you'll be absolutely stunned at what these MCPs can do in WordPress. All right. Well, let's see. What else? Yes, we have a few new live streams here. One in particular that we mentioned during the Cloudflare live stream on Tuesday, and that is that we've scheduled on June the 17th, Daphne from the hosting.com team will be talking about building your first agentic marketing team. So this is based on her own work at hosting.com. Of how to use AI agents to build your own internal marketing team. That's going to be fun. I would highly recommend that you jump on that and get registered for that one. These are, of course, all free for you to attend. If you can't make it live, it'll be up on the replays channel on our YouTube channel. All right, let me give you the list of all the links in the chat. There's our link bundle where you can register for these streams. You can view replays, downloads, etc. And hopefully you're already doing that. All right, well, let's jump into some questions, shall we? If you have a question to ask, please use that link that is in the chat. And we will get back to our list of questions here. Currently 7 in the queue. And we will start with Karen. Hey, Karen. Here we go. Karen said, I've been out all last week, so I'm just catching up on the WordPress 7 release. Are you seeing any major issues or site breakage with it so far? The answer to that question is no. Briefly mentioned that during the news a minute ago. No major issues. We've updated a couple of sites, very low impact sites, no problems. So that's good. I know you've recommended waiting a bit before upgrading major releases, but I'm also getting patch stack warnings and noticing a lot of plugins pushing compatibility updates already. What's your current recommendation on timing and best practices for updating to WordPress 7? Great question. So the general advice about any major version of WordPress, that would be, 7.0, 7.1.2, not a third. The third numeral is the minor release. But any major release, I recommend waiting until the first minor release after. So typically following our regular flow, I would say we're going to wait until WordPress 7.0.1 drops. No word on that right now of when that's going to be. Um, it's gotten lately where those minor releases are really delayed. Like they've done a pretty good job of fixing or and not having breaking changes in those major releases, aside from one problem with the last one, which I think we're all aware of. That was definitely an outlier though. So sometimes it may be 3 weeks or so after a major version, and there's still not a minor release that's chasing it. And at that point, I just kind of look around. I'm in WordPress, social media groups, and so forth. Is anybody talking about problems? Am I hearing anything in WordPress Slack groups, etc.? And if not, maybe 3 weeks away, I might go ahead and push the update. So there's your two triggers. The first minor release or a few weeks after the major version releases. That's what I do. Now you make your own mind up about that. Now, one little tweak to that plan with WordPress 7, we're probably going, I mentioned this earlier, we're as an agency probably going to hide with a function that connectors link in this under settings before we, or as part of the update process. So we're going to want to test that and make sure that works and all before we update the vast majority of our sites. So that's kind of my plan and my thinking right now. I might change my mind on that tomorrow, but that's where I'm at right now. Does that make sense? Anybody have questions about that? Just drop them there in the chat. But that's my thought process at this point. And I'm ready to be corrected if I'm thinking about that wrong. Okay, moving on to Ben B. Hey, Ben. All right. You think your questions were just answered. All right, so yes. All right. So Ben is asking about those connectors. So not an MCP technically. It's a connector, kind of an MCP. I don't know. I may be parsing words there. But anyway, is the MCP off by default or do we have to turn it on? That's a great question. And so by default, nothing is turned on per se because the switch to turn these things on is I'm adding my API key to WordPress like this, right? So that's what actually turns it on. And you'll also want to install the WordPress AI plugin, which shows up here. This is created by an extra plugin that, if it's not installed, gives you an install prompt in this little area here. And so here's where you can actually toggle on what the API keys can do. So can they generate images? Can they classify content with taxonomy strategy, resize, excerpts, alt text, meta? So you do have some granularity on, even if you add an API key, what can it do? And so there are some toggles here. And again, I wasn't planning on demoing this, or I would have had this off already. We'll just go through the whole flow here so you can see what it looks like. All right, so here's the AI plugin. I'm going to delete that, and then you'll see here what it looks like. So when you update to WordPress 7, it gives you the install prompt. You can't really do a whole lot here until you install this AI plugin. So it's just like anything else here. We're going to install it, and then we'll jump over to the plugin. So that button actually installs and activates the plugin. And this is saying, hey, look, you don't have any connectors added yet because we haven't put our API key in. So if you've never seen that, that's kind of how it works. Now, and it's saying, how much trouble can a client get into? Well, that depends on the client. Because we all have adventurous clients. So that's why I think we're going to hide all of this for now. And those that have questions can ask. Gene is asking, could that whole connectors page be hidden like an ASE? It could be. I think we're going to use a code approach so that it's actually hidden. Yeah. All right. So I think we did answer the rest of these. Right time to update. Is it a paid service or free perk? So the plugins are free. Your API key is metered. It's BYOK. Bring your own key. All right, Ben, did that get all your questions? Any other nuance to that we didn't cover? Awesome. All right, folks, if you have a question to ask, use that link in the chat. Next up is class. Oh, yeah. Okay. False site down messages from Uptime Robot. I use Uptime Robot with all my sites. The ones on hosting.com are fine and always up. Well, of course they are, because you've made the excellent choice, class, to host with hosting.com, just as I have, by the way, and I'm paying for it with my own money. It's not a perk of doing these things. Yeah, I made that choice before I ever started working with hosting.com. Anyway, there's one WordPress site that is hosted on AWS. Oh, dear Lord. Can we all just pause and have a moment of silence for class having to support a WordPress site that lives on AWS? Okay. The client special requirements. They need a WebSocket for traffic, app calling home the client's team. Okay. Yeah. Every few days, Uptime Robot sends a message. The site is down, but the site loads fine when I check in my browser. Then 5 minutes later, Uptime checks again. The site is up. Yep. Site is behind Cloudflare. No WAF rules defined yet. Solid security installed on the website. Any thoughts? Okay. So, class, even though you don't have any WAF rules installed, it could be that Cloudflare's own managed rule set is occasionally flagging Uptime Robot traffic as bad. Okay. So the very first thing I would do is make sure there's a direct path for Uptime Robot through your Cloudflare, just to eliminate that out of the equation, right? And so you can do that with a skip rule. When you identify what the user agent is, or the block of IP addresses, or the ASN that Uptime Robot will give you, you can ask their support, or it may be published someplace. And just if traffic equals however you can identify Uptime Robot, then skip it and then check all of those rules that we showed, or skip all the rules and check all 7 or 8 boxes, whatever it is, in the skip rule. And that way, just do that anyway. And that way you're sure that the traffic passes through. Okay. Second thing, we have this happen too with our Uptime tool. We don't use Uptime Robot. We use Better Uptime. Even with a skip rule, occasionally it's rare, but yeah, we get a down error and it's a false positive. And that is a problem that is open for me right now. We don't have a good solution. And it hasn't risen to the point of crisis yet, because it might happen once every 2 or 3 weeks. Like, it's not often, it's always a different site. And, the alert that we get, we can just click a link and see, and it's fine. We're going to have to solve that one day. And I don't know the answer to it right now, of what's actually causing that. Terry is saying, could be something in your cache. It's interesting. It could be. So, and it's not Uptime Robot necessarily, because we use a different tool and we still have the same issues. The bad thing is when it happens at like 2 a.m. and there's a burp that happens on my phone and I get woken up. I hate that. That doesn't happen often though. So I would definitely punch a hole through Cloudflare for that traffic, and then see if it still happens. And if we figure out the solution for us, I'll be sure to report back. Yeah, but you're not alone on that. It is something that I see. People are talking about that. Like, it's out there. You can search Facebook groups and so forth, and there are others that have similar issues. And it's not necessarily Cloudflare related. It's not, there's different stacks involved. So, one other thing to check, and I am definitely not in AWS. Like, I know what the letters mean. That's about it. Okay. But if they have any sort of firewall or security protocol at all from Amazon, you're going to need to make sure that there's nothing in that stack that's getting in the way either. So just check that. Next up is Karen. Okay. Oh, this is saying don't worry about it. I answered my own question. So, Karen, we're just gonna pull it up because maybe other people will want to know the answer to that question. And I actually don't see what the earlier question was. So, um, I'm sorry, Karen. I don't know what the question was or even how to address it. But it's always good to ask the question. Oh, it was about WordPress 7 and PHP compatibility. Oh, happy to be of service. Okay, 3 questions in the list right now. Plenty of space to answer yours. So if you'd like to ask a question, just use that link in the chat. Next up is Paul. Oh, okay. Paul says, right now I am running Claude on my laptop, my main machine. What is the benefit of setting up a dedicated machine to process stuff? Is it worth doing this? Okay. So, Paul, is it worth it? The answer is maybe. I currently have right over there on the other side of my closet wall, hanging on the wall, an older MacBook that lives in clamshell mode, which is running Claude and some things that we're doing internally for the agency. And I am, because I think it's going to be helpful. It's not demonstrably beneficial at this moment, but my thought is, okay, we've got Claude routines, which are, they can be triggered at a time, or they can be triggered with a webhook or some action to talk to Claude. And I think there's going to be some useful things with that. I just haven't had bandwidth to fully explore it. Like right now, every night, we're running what I would call an agency OS. That's a stack of files and folders that runs through GitHub. And Claude, the machine over in the closet, every night at 2 a.m. runs through and like does a librarian pass to make sure everything is in place. So my vision for this is I think that one day this could become like a project manager that can process emails and make sure things are filed and so forth. So I have some thoughts on how this might work. It's also being used for dispatch, which you just mentioned in the chat. Yes. So if you're a Claude user, you may have discovered that on your mobile phone in the Claude app, there is a little icon for dispatch, which lets you from your mobile phone talk to Claude Desktop, which is incredibly more powerful than the version on your phone because it might have file access, or you're running Claude Code, for example, or Claude Cowork that has many more capabilities than just the regular chat. So dispatch for me lives on that computer over there in the closet because it's always on and it can respond to requests. So, and be respond to requests with awareness. Let me say that. Like it's aware of the things we're working on because of the memory in our projects and so forth. So dispatch is like the reason I made this extra computer over it. Made it. I set this computer up to do this. And it works pretty well. But I think there's a lot more it can do. And that's what, as I have some time chipping away at things, I'm starting to work on. So I don't know. Did that answer your question? Probably not. Let me ask you this. Who there in the chat is using something like Claude Dispatch or something like this in your work? All is. Excellent. Excellent. The problem with dispatch is that remote computer you're talking to, it has to be on. And so this machine that I do all my work on goes to sleep. And so it's not on and therefore not accessible through dispatch. So another option has to be created. And crickets in the chat. So, all right. So if you have no idea at all what we're talking about, let me invite you to join us for the next live stream coming up on June the 2nd, because I'm going to be talking about some of this, like the beginnings of these thoughts in this one. So if, for example, your use of AI is mainly in chat mode where you're asking questions and getting answers, getting code snippets generated and so forth. That's great, but there's so much more that an AI tool like Claude can do for you. So that's what I'm going to be unpacking. That is coming up a week from Tuesday, or is it this coming Tuesday? It is coming up on June the 2nd, which is this coming. No, it's a week from Tuesday. I don't know. Yeah, 1 week from Tuesday is when we'll be talking about this. Is that right? No, it's Tuesday. It's coming up on Tuesday. Yes. Thank you, Katie. It's coming up June the 2nd. Thank you, Paul. And so if you've not registered for this, I would strongly encourage you to do so because it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very, very live demo. And so we'll be taking a look at all of this. Yes, thank you, Sue. In 5 days. All right, next in the list is Ben B. And if you have a question to ask, use that link in the chat. There's just this one and one more. So be sure to get a question in if you have it. Ben says, what is the latest PHP level we should all be on? 8.4? Probably. So we are currently running 8.3 on our agency sites, and we're about ready to move up. And it'll probably be to 8.4 when we do that. We might do 8.5. I have some compatibility questions about some of the plugins that we're running, and we'll need to answer those questions. So, like, there are speed improvements pushing from, as you're moving from 8.3 to 8.4 to 8.5. Can you move from 8.2 to 8.4? Yes, you can. You absolutely can. Okay, here's some great questions. And so, first of all, Ben, thank you for asking this question because it has provoked so many more. No, 7.4 is not good these days. Okay, so Terry is reporting that 8.5 is crashing right now. So Terry, do you know what's causing that? It shouldn't be core. It's probably a theme, something in the theme and plugin stack. Have you narrowed down what's causing that crash? That's interesting. I've not done that work yet, but it's something that's on the radar. Yeah, some themes and plugins, and that's always going to be the issue as you're considering PHP upgrades. And so, what do? You make a staging site and you test PHP and you see what shows up in the error log, right? And unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. Unfortunately, so there's not an easy way that I know to just flip the switch and have everything work. It's risky. So this is number one of the benefits business-wide of not changing your theme and plugin stack very often. Because when you go to make a PHP move, for example, knowing that 8 out of 10 of the sites that you host or manage are all in the same stack, well, you could just test a couple of them, right? And you'll know reasonably well that the rest are going to be just fine because the stack is consistent. Consistency matters in management. Now, as far as the others, you just kind of have to test them one at a time and make sure. So great question from Phoebe. Phoebe says, if I am on hosting.com, do I need to ask them to move or do they do it automatically? So they're not going to change PHP versions automatically because that can be breaking, right? So you wouldn't want your host to upgrade your PHP automatically without some sort of back and forth because who knows what's in your stack that might break. So Phoebe, let me ask, are you on the managed hosting by rocket.net flavor of hosting.com or do you have a VPS or VDS? If you're on Rocket, great. Okay, so if you're on Rocket, just open up a chat and ask questions, and they'll help you. That's one of the things you're paying for with Rocket.net. Phenomenal support. They'll hold your hand through these processes, and it's very likely what they'll tell you to do is to flip a staging site over and test everything and see what's going on. And that's very easy to do in Rocket. Now, I will say, if you are, let me just open up the WHM here for WP Nathan. This is a hosting.com VPS where all of this lives. And it's actually quite easy to flip PHP in cPanel. So this is just a vanilla cPanel install. I'm going to search for PHP PHP version. Now, the PHP, this is something else to be aware of. If for some reason you have multiple WordPress installs inside of a single cPanel, that's generally not recommended, by the way, for security reasons. But if you do, just be aware that it's one PHP version per cPanel. So make sure all the sites in a cPanel are going to work with your new version. Okay, so look right here. This is running PHP 8.2. So all we have to do to change it is let's just bump this right up to 8.4. And it'll ask, if you don't know what this is, then you can ask for help from support. These are all the default PHP modules. And so we're just going to apply this. Is something happening? So you will need to take a look. Like if you have changed, for example, your base memory limit to something other than this, just make sure all of these settings match up in the PHP version you're rolling to. Yeah, and then you're set. So it's now over at 8.4, and it's literally just as quick as changing the version, making sure your options are correct and match your current versions, and then moving it. So it's not terribly difficult, but that's what your server support there is for. Go check your error log to see if any. Yeah, well, we could. This I just did this for Purple Beagle, which is just a vanilla WordPress site. Oh, it's not even up. I killed it. That was what we did for the Cloudflare setup. Let me go back to the actual WP Nathan account here, because obviously there is a site there. Let's look at PHP version. I think we just used all the defaults. And if you wonder, like, just making sure all of the PHP extensions move over, you can screenshot this and take a look on the next version. Same for options. I think all these are just standard. So let's flip WP Nathan over to 8. Why not? Let's live dangerously. 8.5. All right, so we'll need to change our memory limit. Now, honestly, for a basic site like WP Nathan, 128 will be fine. I just usually run them at 512. And I do like to change my input vars to 15,000 because Beaver Builder likes a high number. All right, so we'll apply that. It'll take a second. All right. Now, what could possibly go wrong here? Let's take a look. Well, it's running. So that's a good thing. Let's take a look at our error log. There's a couple of things, but look, it's from May the 22nd, so it wasn't from today. Let's check the admin error log. We got one it was a couple hours ago. So none of these errors have come from PHP 8.5. Wow, what a mess. Interesting. Yeah, those are all plugin updates. Interesting. But yeah, it looks like it runs just fine. Gene, the max vars, 12 to 15,000 would be what I'd recommend. If you ever see your Beaver Builder, like you hit a button and it just kind of goes weird, or things like go semi-transparent while it's trying to do something, it needs higher input vars. It needs more things to be able to work. All right, so there we go. That was an unplanned demo of switching PHP in a cPanel. Probably could have been a lot more elegant, but there you go. All right, any other questions about this? 8.4 is the answer to that question. Terry, 10,000 probably is enough, but it doesn't really hurt to have more. Okie dokie. Let's see. Sherry is next. I'm looking. I'm looking at a way to set up an affiliate link tracking system. Is there a good plugin I can add to my client's site that will be easy to set up affiliate links for their affiliate slash co-promotion folks? I have a construction supplier distributor. He's co-marketing with other business people in the trade and looking for a way to attribute leads and referrals to these other people. Looking at how the tracking would or could work, if someone clicks on an affiliate link, it would show them going to my client's site, but not necessarily they called or a sale was made. So just looking for ideas. They use Zoho CRM. Okay. So Sherry, are they looking for a simple number of clicks in a month that this link got? Is that basically it? Because it could be. I mean, what information do they want? Because a lot of clients like, well, no, I want to know who it was. Like, Sue Johnson clicked on that link and went to their site. Well, obviously you can't know that, right? Those days of the web are long gone. So really, the only metric you're going to get is probably a count. But so if that's the case, just use redirection. Use the redirection plugin because you're going to get a count right there of how many clicks that, so set up the link as a redirect. So yourclient.com/other business name and link that to their referrals page and then just watch the stats because right here, and pretty links is another option, but redirection is going to work the same way. By default, it gives you the hit count. So right there. And what you would do is go in every month, charge them for it, and just make a spreadsheet. Here's the number at the end of the month from the last month, right? And then you can just do the math, and this is how many happened. Now, if you want deeper tracking, there are any number of affiliate plugins that are out there. Terry has listed several. So, yeah. So, Terry, I use Affiliate WP. I bought the agency deal a million years ago, and I have it running on several sites. It's fine. It has, since Pippin's plugin sold that 800 years ago, it has not received a lot of development attention, but it works. It's fine. There are others that are out there that are probably more modern and more actively maintained. But yeah, that would tell you more, but those really are for conversions that you're tracking on your site. For example, you've got a WooCommerce product that other people become affiliates for and then link back to you so you can attribute that sale to them. That's really the job of an affiliate plugin. What we're looking at here is how many people click the link on my site to this other place. And in that case, yeah, just a simple numeral is all you're looking for. Sherry, so if we had a Shopify site, that would work. You're linking off to a Shopify site, or the links that people are clicking would be on a Shopify site. So you're saying they got a WordPress site, they want to put links on a WordPress site that click over to a Shopify site. Is that what you're looking for? Okay, I'm lost, Sherry. I'm sorry. What I would tell you to do is this is a job for Google Analytics. Okay, what you're describing is a Google Analytics conversion process. And so what you would want to do is on the link, you would add some parameters that when the Shopify site that is yet to be built, as I understand it, when it receives the traffic with that URL information, it processes that and they go through and click a thing and buy like you could track that whole process with Google Analytics goals. But that would all have to be set up. That would actually let them see how many people clicked over to the Shopify site versus how many clicked over and then actually converted into a sale. You can do all of that with Google Analytics. It is far more complicated than I can explain in office hours, obviously, but that's a Google Analytics conversion. If you simply want the number of people that click the link, redirection is the simplest, easiest, most reliable way to do that. Okie dokie. Next up is Sue. If I'm rebuilding a members only site on my dev server, what's the best way to make it non-discoverable to everyone, including bots and Google, once I remove the member plugin protected pages? Okay. So a couple of things. Number one, the easiest one, which I'm sure you're aware of, is simply to go to settings and reading and turn off search engine visibility. Boom. Now, what that setting does is it modifies the robots.txt to instruct bots that might come across your site to not index it. That, of course, is only a request, right? It's not actually blocking access. This is a good first step, period. I do this for every site in development because I have had sites in development that got indexed and it was a gigantic mess. So the next step is, Sue, do you have the admin site enhancements plugin, ASE? Because if you do, the next step is to search for password and just toggle on password protection. And what this will do is put a password in front of any traffic at all that tries to access the website. So that blocks everything. No pages can be viewed at all unless the password is entered. And I think, yeah, this is in the free version. Now, there is another plugin as well called Private Site. It's been around forever and ever right here. And you can install this and it basically does the same thing. So both of those, if you've already got the free version of ASE installed, use that, toggle on password, you're good. Private site, the main difference between the two is that, well, I'll just show you. If you are using the, this is the ASE version. Whoops, did I not toggle that on? I may not have saved it. The ASE version simply shows a password. It's like one password for the whole site, and you can give that to anybody. And here's what that looks like. I have to dump the cache. Well, anyway, it's just a password block. One password for anybody. We like that because we can just give the client a password without having to create a user and so forth. If you use the private site plugin, what that does, this one here, this one redirects traffic to the WordPress login page. So you have to actually have a user and a password. So it's up to you. They both do the same thing. Nobody's going to be able to read the content. It's just, if you've already got ASE installed, use that. Otherwise, private site. All right. Can I expand the ASE thing? Yeah, it just drops down and lets you choose what the password actually is. The default password is secret. And you can change it to be whatever you want. You can also pass through IP addresses if you want here as well. There's some neat stuff. It's a pretty powerful password protection plugin. That's a lot of P's. Okay, moving on. 2 questions left and 1 minute to do them. Let's see how we do here. Next up is Ben. Now that I understand the AI connectors are metered if we allow a client to use it, now I'm feeling the big 7.0 release is a bit underwhelming. Yeah. WordPress is still, and let's see, allowing clients to adopt and realize that WordPress is still the best platform to be on. However, I understand the complete nightmare this Pandora's box can cause us. Yep. Following your suggestion to hide the connector section in AI, has the upgrade been a lot of hype and we just continue as if the connector upgrade never happened until a client asks us for it? It's a great question, Ben. I'm not talking about it to anybody. We are using Novamira as an agency and love it. Can't tell you how much I love it. It just, Chris and I are constantly messaging each other, going, look what this just did. It's just crazy. And we're not using the built-in WordPress connectors. So I don't know. It's not hype because, again, like I mentioned earlier, the underlying architecture of the Abilities API, honestly, that's the real news and it's being developed there at that level. Connectors lives on top of that. I don't think I like that, but that's okay. It's okay. I just use another tool to hit that Abilities API. So I don't know. We're going to hide those, I think, until we have a client that could actually benefit. Then we'll probably move them. We'll have to do a lot of training around that, I think. Next up is Gene. This will be the final question of today's office hours. Gene says a client is considering marketing via Substack. Do you have any experience with it or have any advice? Substack's a great platform. It really is. It is a SaaS. You're locked in, but they have all the tools you need for marketing. Like if your goal is content marketing, Substack is a great option as long as you're okay inside their walled garden. And it's all the other risks that you would have with any other kind of a SaaS tool where you're not controlling your own content. It lives over on Substack and it's going to be a Substack address. But Substack is pretty well known and they've got the email marketing piece down. It's really, really powerful. And so it depends on the client, right? The challenge with moving to something like Substack is you're going to lose the ability to, at the same place the content lives, engage them really well with a landing page or with other things. And so you just have to link off to your real site and let Substack be the place where blog posts and content marketing lives. It's a little complicated. Can you direct traffic to the website with a link? You know, click here for our whatever. Sure. But the content lives over here and you have to link off to over here. So you kind of have to weigh that out. It's a strong platform. And I see more and more of the thought leaders that I follow are moving towards Substack. All righty. Well, folks, that wraps up office hours for today. It's been a lot of fun, and I will be back Tuesday talking about AI beyond the chat and talking about using AI tools to actually access and manipulate files for you, which is scary and powerful all at the same time. So that's coming up Tuesday. Hope you have registered for that. If not, let me drop our links bundle there in the chat. Make sure you click that register for upcoming live streams link and get signed up for all the things. Meantime, have a great weekend. I hope you do no work at all and enjoy some great time with friends and family. And I'll see you back here Tuesday for more here at hosting.com's Agency Success, where we go further together.